Check the mic and make sure it sound right.
So welcome everyone to the group chat in this week's special edition of the mailbag. I don't know, I copied this name from another podcast actually, but we're going to answer your questions directly from IG. So some of you actually sent in some questions and we're going to try to answer as many of them as possible. So there's no specific topic that we're discussing, but just generally things that you guys are concerned with. And then we want to talk about these questions that you guys have. Sing, are you ready?
Okay, I've not seen those questions.
Yes, I know. That's the interesting part here. Okay, so first question is from Bessie Curley. Very interesting name. Is it possible to improve by 16 points from mid-year exam to O levels?
Yeah, you can improve more than that. You want to improve 60 also can. Refer to our old podcast about this.
Okay, but realistically, if like let's say the person right now is in high 20s, right? And they're aiming to bring it down to like 10. So from like 26 points to 10 points, there's a jump of 16 points, right? Do you think realistically is achievable? And to achieve it, how much do you actually have to put in, like effort-wise?
I think 16 is quite a bit. It's quite a lot. If you divide by the number of subjects you have, means every subject need to improve 4 grades. Yeah, around there. That's quite a bit. So but I think it's still possible if you really put in a lot of effort in like getting everything, like sort out your content, do a lot of practices. While it's not impossible.
My take would be more of like, where is your level at? Because if you're scoring like way out of like you're in the C5, C6 range, the optimistic message here is that you're halfway to improving. There's actually a lot, like, because to jump from like a C6 to a B3, right, to improve by like 3 points is like very doable, because getting a B3 is actually not that difficult. You just need certain foundation, certain amount of practices.
That's very true.
Yeah, so if you're looking to like make that leap, right, like let's say everything from C6 to B3, right, 3 points per subject, L1, R5, if you consider it to be like 6 subjects, you're improving by 18 points already. But if you're talking about improving 16 points, like you want to go to L1, R5, like
4 points.
Like 4 points, or like you want to go to like very few points, then that gap to close between a B3 and an A1 is a lot more difficult. So it really depends on which situation you're talking about. But I think general advice here is, number one, have you gotten your concept, right? Yeah, the content. Content done is do practice, right? Do practice done, then I think finally is exam preparation, which is, are you able to do it in the time given? Are you aware of how best to approach your exams in terms of answering techniques and stuff? So I think keeping your focus on this would be good. Now, if your subject is not so homogeneous, meaning yours got some B3, some failing and stuff, right? The best way to make a drastic improvement is to actually work on your weakest link first, right? So if for example, if your A math is F9 and you have to use it in your R1, R5, the best bet is for you to jump from an F9 to a B3. That is an improvement by 3 score. Rather than you spending so much time doing your best subject, pushing it from an A2 to A1, So you need to look at incremental improvement, but realistically, as a strategy as a whole for your L1, R4, L1, R5, focusing on which subject would bring the biggest benefit. So this is, I think, just a simple case of strategizing. In fact, I saw another Reddit post that was talking about, do I really need to focus on all my subjects, right? Because at the end of the day, your L1, R5, there's a limited selection, right? You're supposed to use your English most of the time, a core math, maybe a core science. Like your combination of what subjects you should be choosing should be more or less there. Of course, I don't advise just like putting all of your eggs in one basket. So in case you fail, you still have a few alternatives. But I don't completely disagree with the student in terms of maybe strategizing your resource allocation in terms of how much you revise each one. If you're already good at it, maybe you can just maintain. Then you spend the rest of your effort focusing on your weaker ones. But at the end of the day, it's anybody's game, right? So up to you on how you want to do it.
But I think Darrell brought up a very good point about strategizing, like pushing from F9 to B4 is really much easier than B4 to A1, even though their gap may be like the same. But I think I have one one more thing to add to this is like, don't think so much about like how many points you are improving. Just go and start studying. Like, I think that is way more important. Like, instead of planning, okay, planning is important, but I think spending too much time planning but not on the action itself, is like very wasteful as well. So like, don't think so much. Like, now the time is for you to go and just chong.
Okay, our next question is from periodic sulfuric. I cannot see the full name, okay, but the question is, how do hybrid combinations work in JC, and which JC offer the most hybrid combinations?
RI Hwa Chong probably, just because they have the most number of students, so they have most number of combination that they provide. Like, just by statistic, just by numbers, I'm guessing it's RI and Hwa Chong.
Okay, back to answering the point on how does hybrid combination work for those Sec 4s or they are not aware of in JC how it works. So in JC, how it works is that you choose either the science or the art stream. You'll be given a choice. You're supposed to do a 3+1, meaning if you choose the science stream, you're supposed to take 3 science subjects and 1 contrasting art subject. If you enter the art stream, you're taking 3 art subjects, which are your humanities, and 1 contrasting science. Take note that math fall under the science subject call. All right. So a typical combination for the most average student, right, is that they will take PCME, that's physics, chem, math as their 3 science, and 1 contrasting, which is econs, which is technically your humanities. So that is what we call a typical combination. A hybrid would probably mean that you're taking 2 science and 2 art. So that means in the case like you take math and physics, and then maybe you take history and econs, something like that, meaning 2 of each. So going back to a point on which school offers it the most, we actually did a podcast on this earlier in January for O-level kids that are entering JC. So during the podcast, we actually shared the different JCs pros and cons. And I think one of it that did stick with me was that I think there was a strong mention of how ACJC, they are quite, the school does quite well in terms of managing hybrid combinations. So that was shared by students from ACJC. And then I thought that, okay lah, I mean, maybe something that you do want to consider about. There's pros and cons towards having a hybrid combination. It allows you to take the subjects you're most interested and passionate about. But usually the downside is that your timetable is a mess, meaning you tend to end school a bit later, purely because your time slot for your lessons are the most erratic, because you can't meet with the general cohort. So if you take a very common combination like PCME or BCME, which is bio, chem, math, econs, your timetable slot will always be the best because you are with the majority. Then the rest of the minority combinations will try to adapt to the majority's combination. So that's how the timetable work out. But if you feel like you're okay with like longer school days and like maybe random breaks in between the school days without a lesson, then of course you can go and pursue hybrid. But this is strongly subjected to demand. If there is enough people that are pursuing the same combination as you or similar combinations, the school will usually group you together in a class and then offer you that hybrid combination. But in an off year whereby maybe not many people actually take that combination, then you might not have the option to do that. So it really depends on the year and the school as well. Yep, so that is our answer for hybrid combinations. Okay, next question. Let me pick a more interesting one. So I know this one's from my ex-student, so I'm just gonna address. Okay. I won't say who, okay, but you know who you are. Okay. How does it feel like to not want to cry every day? Okay, for context, she's in J1 right now. So she was my student last year. So I think both of them are asking similar questions on how not to feel like killing themselves every day. So I think let me rephrase the question. Right now, if you're in J1, how do you cope with the overwhelming amounts of subpass and failure that you're getting for the first time in your life? Xing Wei, what was your experience like?
Don't ask me. I never experienced that in school.
I mean, in J1, so you were okay in J1?
No. In fact, my first exam, I did damn well.
Oh, you nerd. Okay, I can speak about it. I can speak about it. I was the normal one, the normal one here that was failing, almost barely passing most of my subjects in J1. I think it was really a big shock because as I transitioned from O-level, whereby I was like getting A1 for all my shit, to JC where my usual grade is an E or a S, I think that came as a very rude shock, even though I was warned multiple times that JC was going to be really tough, but I didn't realize it was going to be that tough. So that part really shocked me. But for the J1s out there who are listening and you did not do well for your midterms, I say don't press the panic button just yet. But I think it's a very good reality check in terms of, hey, JC is not going to be a walk in the park. I think that's a very important realization to make. This, I think, should translate to real behavioral changes in terms of building correct habits, like pre-reading your notes before lectures, completing your tutorials and homework, so that when your teacher go through in class, you can actually ask questions and clarify. And lastly, please allocate time to actually go and revise your content. And I think if you feel that right now your results are not satisfactory, don't panic just yet. But I think it's important for you to reorganize your thought process on how you want to approach your whole JC. Because for me, when I went in JC, I was like, wow, so fun, like so many things to do, you know? So I was like very eager to participate in a lot of stuff. But I think learning to say no sometimes is so important. Saying no to, not say everybody, but like maybe certain requests, like, hey, go celebrate birthday together. You know, that's like burning 3-4 hours. Or saying no to a certain school event, not committing to it, so you don't have to, you can actually reserve more time for yourself and for your academics. There's always this triangle that they talk about, is sleep, social life, and academics, right?
Yeah.
You cannot have all three. You need to understand that it's almost impossible, right? So you need to find a balance and you need to learn to make sacrifices. You can't want everything. I think that is the biggest thing that you need to learn in JC. And if I can just throw it out one more, time management. I think time management is more important now. If you're still like lounging around watching like YouTube trash videos for like 2 hours a day, then I'm serious, you won't get anywhere, because that 2 hours is so precious. You can either use it to sleep, spend it on your social life or academics. JC is super fast. It's just 2 years. And if you make it out of these 2 years, life is going to be great. Because you go on to uni is, I would say, considerably more fun and with a lot more freedom. So you're going to suffer for sure. But if you're going to suffer, do it right and do it well, so you don't waste your 2 years. That's my advice.
But to answer directly the question, how to not feel like crying, just cry lah. Just cry already, then move on. Don't cry too long. Cry 10 minutes and then set an alarm, cry 10 minutes and then go and study. Like, yeah.
My advice is to cry together with your friend, man. You know, pain just feels less when you're like suffering it together. Okay, but I thought that was pretty cool. Okay, now for a more light-hearted question. Xin Wei, what was your most embarrassing experience in school?
Embarrassing. Oh, during lecture. So in RI, the LT1 lecture is where a lot of classes are there. So it can hold like maybe a few hundred people. Because the mainstream classes will be there. I took BCME, Bio, Chem, Math, Econs. So, and I used to sleep a lot in lecture. And then I think it was like math lecture. I was just like, oh, okay, I can't do this. So I just sleeping. And I'm not the kind that sleep like that. So I'm the kind that will lie on the table flat, my face flat down on the table and then to sleep. And I can sleep very well doing that. So I think I was sleeping. And then I was called out by the lecturer, sitting right on top. And then my friend was like, hey, wake up. And I was like, what? Don't disturb me. Like, I literally told my friend, don't wake me up. Like, let me sleep. But then it's like, oh, the lecturer is calling you. And I was like, oh my God. Then I just like, yeah. I think that's probably the most embarrassing.
I got a similar one. Okay, but mine I think was worse. Mine was, I don't know whether I told this story before, but like it was morning assembly in the auditorium. So it was a principal talk. So me and my friend reached school extra early because we wanted to choose the best seat in the auditorium to sleep. So we chose the seat, right, where by the back of the head, there was like the cushion thingy, you know, the soundproofing thing. So we could lie our head on that cushion to sleep. Okay. So we were like one of the first students to reach, right? So we lie our head and then we just sleep straight away. Then, wow, damn shook, right? Sleep 40 minutes. Wow, like, wow, you never get such a good nap. Then the principal finished their talk. Then suddenly they end of talk, right? The principal and the vice principal, okay, those 2 rows there, stay back. Yeah, I don't even know what's going on. I was like, okay, stay back. Then he actually came down in front of us, the principal and the VP. It's like, okay, y'all can go back. The 4 of you, the 4 of us, then I look at my friend and me. Then there were another 2 guys beside us, the 2 dancers. They did the exact same thing as us and they slept right beside us. So it was damn obvious because 4 of us were all sleeping in one straight line. And we were completely caught out directly in front of the principal and the vice principal. Then that was like super like embarrassing because I think the vice principal also knew who I was. Then from then on, I think our punishment was that we had to sit in front of our class for
Oh my
exam every day
god.
for the
That's
whole
damn
JC,
shag.
like
Damn shag.
for the full 2 years. So I was like, okay, I was like, cool. Like, yeah, that was pretty embarrassing. But I think both related to sleep. But I mean,
Yeah,
I
oh my
understand
god.
sleep deprived, right? So
Yeah, I was very sleep deprived.
yeah, so I mean, embarrassing or not, I think, there's nothing wrong. Okay, maybe just one last question here. All right. So Scooby Dooby Boo asked, can you have a brief guide on studying for each subject? This is
Oh
going to
my
be quite broad,
god.
but let's make this quick, I guess. Xin Wei, what worked for you for which subject?
Wait, study guide for all subjects?
Like just maybe a quick one. Like what do you advise is the best way to study each subject?
For science subject, is get the content right. Like really, really get the basic right, get the content right. And it should be like all the keywords and how to use the keywords, like the phrasing of the keyword. So even if you use the keyword, even though you know the keywords, but you're phrasing the keywords wrongly, there's like no point in that. And then do a lot of practices. I think math is also practice, but understanding is very important, I think. I feel like practice is very important, but if without understanding, I think it's useless. So I think math is just a lot of practicing. Human subject is a lot of reading and a lot of practice. The practice is not very similar like doing question, but I think it's a lot of like writing and then trying different questions. Okay, actually I guess in some way practicing as well, but it will be a lot of writing. Really try to give yourself a topic and then just write about it, so you are familiar enough with it. I mean, because for O level I took geog, and then for JC I took econs. I think like writing a lot just helps.
Yeah, for me as
yeah.
a science tutor, I think the best thing that Xin Wei has shared as well is get your contents right. I think for science, it's very important to question the why and the understanding. After you get the understanding, then it's about getting to apply the concept to different types of questions solving the same concept. Then that's when you really attain the mastery. From my own experience doing math, I was quite good in math lah. But I think the trick for e-math, I don't think there was much of a trick. It's just like whether you're good at math. Sorry to say that, but like e-math is like very basic stuff. A-math you need practice. A-math to me, I couldn't understand it because it just like, what the hell is like trigo, right? Trigo, there's like no logic to it. It's just like you need to know your identities and stuff. So for A-math, in fact, the question types are quite standard. That means it's actually all the same. It's like prove this, prove that.
That's
so actually
true.
A-math with a lot of practice, I was able to improve very quickly. Yeah. For humanities, right, I was actually really good at my humans. I got A1 for my pure geog, A1 for my combined humans as well. The trick here is that content is important for sure, but I think being able to write out everything in the time limit is also just as important. So both in JC and in secondary school, a lot of it is about not just knowing your content, but how familiar you are with it. Because in exam, you don't really have that much time to think because you need to spend a lot of time writing, especially those that write slow, right? You need even more time to write. So I think a lot of it is about being really familiar with your content. One way I like to do is I like to test myself, right? After I study something, I'll ask myself, do I like if I were given this question, what would I write? So in my head, I run through a simulation, sort of like a bullet point. Then if I'm able to come out with that, then I know that actually I know my shit. I think the subject that I struggled with the most was English, a language-based subject that, you can't really like tangibly improve. But if I had a chance to go back to my younger self to tell myself how I can improve, I think number one is when I write essay, especially if I get a chance to practicing in school and my teacher mark it, I should always go and ask for like more detailed feedback. I think a lot of time when I write essay, I like to write narrative last time. Then I write already, I shook, then I like move on. Like I didn't really ask on how I could have improved from here, right? So I think that was something that was missing. And then I think being more generally more wide-read, especially if you're going for discursive and argumentative, given that there are so many media sources today, please don't just watch your freaking like streamers play game for like don't know how long, but maybe just spread a bit of your time to watch a little bit of world news. Some general knowledge would go a long way in your discussion, especially if you're able to bring up real statistics to back up your explanation. I find that those really made a big difference for my English. What other subjects? What are we left with? Does PW count? I don't think so.
Can refer to the past podcast.
Yes, we did a podcast.
I think what Darrell said, it applies even more for GP. Like really like must like read a lot and like read extensively and write extensively. If you're really aiming for that A for GP, I think you have like no way out unless you have like built a foundation since young. Like, you know, even for my friends who are like English speaking since young, read a lot since young, right? GP does not mean it's a like direct A. Like there are still some that didn't make it because GP requires a lot of like current news and like current knowledge and very strong arguments. So yeah, even those who like their English is very good, but their GP is not that kind. So I think read a lot, write a lot.
Yep. Yeah. I think with that, I mean, we weren't able to answer everybody's question, but thanks for sending it in. And I hope that, you know, whatever we have discussed in some way was kind of interesting. I have no idea how this episode is going to go, but we might have another one down the line. So if we do ever send out the next Q&A, maybe you can just participate and send in your questions if you're interested to get us to discuss about it. So with that, we come to the end of today's podcast. Please remember to leave us a like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.
It sound right, boy.